Hey guys, it's Avalon here. Welcome back to Simply Avalon. And today I'm going to show you my tips and tricks to do calligraphy with your Crayola markers. I actually have brush pens in Crayola markers, but I actually tend to lean towards using these because not only are these cheaper to use, but they're also, in my opinion, much easier to work with, and they have such great colors. Now the Tombos do too, but we'll get to that in a different video. This is going to be the second video in like my handwriting series that I wanted to do because I really wanted to do some different things on this channel now. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first, I always suggest that you start off with some sort of graphing type paper. Now this one I actually intended to use for AP chemistry at first, but I didn't realize that it was actually a really good notebook for calligraphy also. So you don't have to get this exact type. There are actually specific papers like watercolor paper that you can use, but especially when you're starting out with calligraphy, considering that you want to use a Crayola marker, you're probably a beginner, I would definitely suggest to actually try using a graphing notepad that's really relatively cheap and that will still give you really good payoff. But anyway, back to what we were doing. My first tip and trick is to always, especially if you're going to be using this paper that's not watercolor paper, and this is also a great tip for copy paper also, to go ahead and use some sort of cardboard matting like this. I'm actually just using a pizza box because it works. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna slide it beneath the page so that you don't get like what you just saw with my calligraphy page. You don't get that spotting on the next page like this. We don't really want that. I mean, since I am going to use this color anyway, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't irk me that much. But if I was going to be using a different color, I'd definitely insert that underneath this page because I don't want it to bleed through. And that's how you can prevent bleeding onto your next page when you're using a notebook. And that's like one of my #1 tips or tricks. So my next thing is that when choosing your marker, you have to learn the strokes. This is true for any marker that you choose for calligraphy. I'm not really like a big proponent of somebody who's gonna say like you have to learn your 45 degrees or whatever, but it is important to learn those starting strokes so that you can get the nice thick downstrokes and thin upstrokes. And sorry, I can't really say the TH. But what we're gonna do to start off with is that you have these little boxes. Let them be your guidelines. Like as in like, think of this as your guideline. Sorry, that's like a horrible box, but that's kind of like your guide for whenever you're doing this. What you're gonna do is try and make thin upstrokes. That's your model. Every single time you make a letter, it needs to have a thin upstroke whenever you're doing like an A, thin up, and then you're gonna have a thick downwards. And that gives you that really nice crisp look like when you saw when I did this calligraphy up here. You have this thin line up there for the L, and then you have the thick downstroke. Then for the next thing that your next step to do is to do the thick downstrokes. So the Crayola markers make that super easy because you have this nice chiseled tip. So use that to your advantage, and you just do those nice slants. Next, after that, and I'm sorry if this is slightly rushed because I really don't want it to be, and I'm gonna zoom in just an incy-wincy bit. Next, after doing those nice thick downstrokes, you're going to put them together. And one mistake that I see a lot of people do when they do calligraphy is that they want to do this. That's okay if you really want to have like super crisp letters, but the thing that makes calligraphy so interesting, especially if you choose to do a more modern style, and it seems like right now modern calligraphy is really in, is that we want that nice curve. So you don't want to have a mountain in like a mountaintop, I guess. You want more of like a valley, almost like you're making a W. And yes, you can definitely take breaks between strokes. That's actually one of the tips that I was given when I was first starting, that hey, you do not have to just connect them all together. The great thing about calligraphy is that you can take your time. If you want, you can do your thin upstroke like that, and then connect your downstroke, and then go back up, and then go back down. So that's very important. That's going to help you with each and every single letter that you learn from this point onwards. So I'm just gonna continue doing the drills. And this is how I warm up before doing any calligraphy also, just so you guys know. So it's not like this is gonna be just something that you just learn and then you forget. It's really something that could stick with you. And if you're a bullet journaler like me, it's a really great border. I mean, Maybe you're not really into that, but I just think it's a really cool look for borders. So the next thing that we're going to do is letters. Now there are a couple different styles, but I say a great place to start is cursive. So you can do a cursive A, having that thick downstroke, and then thin. That's actually like how I do my small A's, to be totally honest. Or you can do a capital A, like so. Again, as you can see, I'm doing like that nice curve because I prefer the curve. If you want to do something that's slightly more rigid, you can, but again, this is all your own personal preference. You can also do this, add like a little dollop before. There's so many different ways to do your A. But now what I'm going to do for you guys is go through each of the letters. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a tiny bit, but you're still gonna see the thin upstroke and the thicker downstroke, and you're gonna see exactly how I do my letters. And the best way is to practice when it comes to doing calligraphy. I mean, that's true for most things, but for calligraphy especially, the more that you practice your letters and then practicing doing words, the better you're going to be at it and the easier it'll be.
There's something about this girl, man, from around my way. Never try to hold back your feelings, but it just wouldn't stay. But when I finally found the words to say, I wanted to run away, simply run away. Yes, sir, that's her, but it wasn't like that back when I met her. Yes, sir, that's her, but it wasn't like that back when I met her. See, I'm a crip in dark blue tux, and I does what I does, yeah, I might say good. It's really weird, cause I got love. Snoop Dogg's a crip, and the girl was a blood. She told me that her baby daddy was a thug. Now it is what it is, and it was not was. I'm not a little mama like good Monday moon stack, trying to get my keys back. All these memories breed seeds of a rhythm rhyme pleaser. Laid back while we sipping on the breezer. Fresh 4-pack sitting in the freezer. Ain't that Khadijah? I heard she was a skeezer. She used to hit them licks with the visas. When I seen her with the homies, I was like, Jesus. It's been a little minute since I seen her. Hope I'm in the runner, cause I have to pull the name. There's something about this girl, man, from around my way. Ever try to hold back your feelings, but it just wouldn't stay. But when I finally found the words to say, I wanted to run away, simply run away. You can try to hide it, make a difference. You can't lie to yourself. It hurts pretty long till you get the chance, but you're in love with this girl. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man. Let's go, go. There's something about this girl, man, from around my way. Ever try to hold back your feelings, but it just wouldn't stay. But when I finally found the words to say, I wanted to run away, simply run away. You can try to hide it, but make a difference. You can't lie to yourself.
have anything else that you would like me to actually talk about, post, if you need any help, definitely comment down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will go ahead and tell you guys a couple of words I definitely suggest doing. A really good word, in my opinion, that a lot of YouTubers like to use is the word minimum. Let's see if I'm gonna spell this right. The reason that people like this word so much is because strokes matter so much. If you don't have the right strokes, then you're not going to be able to tell what the heck you're writing. And that's minimum.